Hello everyone and welcome to VAFA Tragics. Hope you enjoyed your Queen's birthday weekend. I know we all enjoyed our week off here at the Tragics, but we're back into it to review round 9 of the VAFA season. And I say with great pleasure, a very good afternoon or good evening to Marty Callagher down the end there. What are you wearing there, Marty?
Michael, no doubt, is gaining his revenge here, Andrew. I'm wearing an Old Zavs jacket as Old Zavs beat D-Lar by 5 points. Yet another close game between the two clubs. Now, I must tell a story, Andrew, just before we go any further. At the end of the game, of course, you walk onto the ground and either catch up with people or walk across the ground to catch up and commiserate or congratulate the players. Walking across, and an Old Zavs player walked over and said, "You still doing that TV show on Monday night?" I said, "Oh, yep." And he goes, "Will you be wearing that an Old Zavs jacket?" "Yep." And he said, "Suck it up, sunshine," and just walked off.
I'm sure that was a polite way of doing it. I'm sure you enjoyed that, Michael Fitzgerald.
Well, I wasn't present for the comment there. I was at the game, and it was certainly a game that had some great footy. It was all D-Lar in the first, but yeah, good performance in the end by both teams, I would have thought. And
Brenton, man, you're coming from suffering your team's first loss of the year as well. St John's, what happened?
It was a dirty day at St John's. Welcomed Ivanhoe down to Thomas Carroll, and 3 serious injuries before half-time did not help. And then ill discipline late in the second quarter and into the third had that we did not have a bench for a lot of the third quarter, and Ivanhoe were just too good.
Very good. So Ivanhoe assumed premiership favouritism off that performance?
I wouldn't say
the injuries played a part, do you think?
I think there were definite reasons for our performance. I think if we had our full complement and we played that way and Ivanhoe beat us by that much, we'd be worried. But I don't think... Keep your powder dry in the premiership stakes.
Mind you, it was down at your shop. So.
It was down there, but we'll just keep the powder dry, I think.
Good science, Robin. It seems to be a bit of a revitalisation, gents, of the district club. We're seeing Kew and Ormond in Division 1 doing beautiful things as well. We'll get onto that, I'm sure, later in the show. First, though, the state squads were released yesterday at the VAFA website. Just wanted to go through those. You can see the squads flashing up on the screen as we go through them. Any surprises or any selections that you think probably should have been in there that weren't, gents, as you go through the teams?
Well, I think when you pick about 60 players, it's pretty tough to leave anyone out. I think it's I'm sure from that list will come a final 22 that will get the job done against the country outfit in July. But it is a big squad, and I suppose there'll no doubt be some injuries and unavailabilities as we work through the weeks.
What's your feeling, Marty, on the fact that the senior squad only has, I think, 4 players from Premier B, given that the selectors are keen to bulk up the Premier B to Division 4 side, because that team has never beaten the country team before?
Well, I think that's the right thing to do. I think that when we look at the standard that exists across what euphemistically called minor leagues in the country, that they actually do have a very high standard, and so therefore I think that we need to actually be able to offer those players in Prem B who may be unlucky in many regards to miss out on the senior squad. We actually do look at them and we give them an opportunity to play some really good a really good rep game against some very solid opposition.
And Brenton, the couple of players, you'll be able to tell us about these players, I'm sure, in Division 2 that got selected. Carson Strobel from St John's, I'm sure you'll know a lot about, and Tom O'Donnell from Ivanhoe.
Yes, Carson Strobel just came down to the club this year from Yarragon, and he's a very explosive midfielder. He wasn't playing on the weekend due to a suspension, which is not ideal, but yes, he'll acquit himself well if selected in the rep side. And then O'Donnell from Ivanhoe is just a great player, and he played very well on the weekend. And also I'd like to point out that Masala have got their first representative.
It's a great thing,
yeah, it is,
to see a player from Masala in Division 4 making the team.
No, of course the squads have to be trimmed, but Jared Cogill, it's a great feather in his cap to get picked in the inaugural rep side from Masala.
Well, I was going to say that a few years ago, was it West Brunswick had Billy Meredith play in the rep game, and he ended up
Irving, maybe?
Billy Irving.
That
went to OM.
Yes, yeah. That's right. Yeah, so he came from Div 4. Was a terrific player.
Yep.
There's a lot of terrific players playing in Division in the lower divisions, and one of them I saw as we move into the matches from the round, playing for Old Kerry and against Collegians on the weekend. James King, who was a premiership player with Northern Blues last year in Division 3, came up, kicked 3 goals for Old Kerry and was a really good player. And they've also had Dimitri Dimakopoulos come from Division 3, being part of that side as well. Kerry were pretty good on the weekend too. They were back to their best in terms of their ball movement that we lauded earlier in the season. It went away obviously against University Blacks, but with the way they moved the ball, with some of this end-to-end play that you're seeing on your screen now, just outstanding stuff. Collegians, I've got to say, gee, they're an exciting team to watch. I really enjoyed the way they moved the ball. If anything, they probably over-handballed, and I know it got them into some good positions with the way they moved the ball down the ground, but that probably cost them, and Carey adjusted to that over-handballing, and their tackling pressure caused a turnover, and that's where they were scoring goals.
It's a great return to form for Kerry, as you said, much needed, and maybe a bit of a true session or a bit of extra work over the break has definitely held them in good stead, and they're back to their best, and not sure if they're going to be thereabouts come the end of the year, but they're definitely in a good position.
It's an interesting one. They're third now on the ladder, Old Kerry. You feel like St Bernard's and Old Trinity are locked in for finals, but the other 2 spots are up for grabs. But Kerry keep doing the right things by winning the games at home that they should be probably winning.
Will the VFL have anything to do with that? Will injuries have anything to do with that? Because I think that as we get now towards the time of the year where some of the injuries start to take their toll, or just the wear and tear on bodies. I mean, I know we've got the 2-week break in Prem A, but it just becomes a bit of an issue where depth does become important. We've lauded Old Zaverians over the years, but they've had enormous depth, so they've been able to cover any injuries in many regards, and they've been able to rotate and rest and do those sorts of things.
Well, you better tell us about Old Zaverians and Delas.
Well, just before I do that, I'd just make a comment on that. I think we have 2 teams towards the top, Carey and Old Trinity, who have a great depth in their senior team at the moment, but not much beyond that.
Yes.
That could pose a problem should there be injuries. But what is also striking me is the remarkable inconsistency of some of these teams, barring Trinity and perhaps even St Bernard's. You could let off the hook and D La on the other scale. But all of the clubs in between seems to be showing. One week they look like premiership material, and the next week you're wondering how they got beaten by so much. So there's a long way to go, and that 2-week layoff could mean a lot.
Certainly didn't do any favours for Collegians or University Blacks, who both lost their contests after being on winning streaks, having a week off. So it'll be interesting to see what that double bye does in only 2 weeks' time. Talk to us about Zavs.
Yeah, well, it was a good game, and obviously Luke Ball making his debut for Old Zaverians was a boost. And
Wynn.
And Nick Wynn, first game back for the year, and probably the only game back for the year from Richmond. But it was an entertaining game. The first quarter played at breakneck speed. Zavs kicked the first goal. D-Lar kicked the next 5. Totally dominated the quarter. Zavs got one split second before the first quarter siren, and then took the lead in the second term and never relinquished it. Got away a bit in the third term. It looked as though it might be over. And then D-Lar hit back, and Marty, a great effort to get in the end within a goal. Was a bit nervous there because the scoreboard was showing there was a goal the difference, when in fact it was only 5 points.
And the ball was actually, as we see at the end, the ball was 25 metres out from the D-Lar goal. But look, I mean, from the Zavs perspective, great to see Luke Ball. And I suppose from a general perspective overall in terms of the ammo, it's great to see Luke Ball out.
How did he go, Luke Ball?
Oh, he was good. His second half was probably superior to his first, but everything he did was very good, and he got into the rhythm of it and had some very telling touches late in the game.
I noticed he's wearing his brother's number, so no chance of Matt sneaking back into the side?
Oh, well, I wouldn't have thought so. Matt handed the jumper to Luke before the game, so I guess that's the way it is.
And how many more games do we expect him to suit up for?
Look, I'm not privy to that. I mean, I think the intention is to play when available, and I believe that's most weeks. It's certainly not a guest appearance.
Sure thing. Brenton, you looked at Blacks and St Bernard's, St Bede's Mentone, of course. We'll get on to them in a second, but St Bernard's, interesting game. More so because for a moment it looked like Carey's 6 behinds at quarter time at the end of the first quarter 2 weeks ago was a good score compared to St Bernard's only 3 behinds.
It was if you rocked up a quarter time and you saw the scoreboard, you'd have to check which game you were at. It was St Bernard's were at 3 points and Blacks were all over them. They went in with a clear plan of really nullifying St Bernard's rebound off half-back. They've got a lot of numbers around the ball and just turning it into a scrap. And when going forward for St Bernard's, they couldn't hit a target inside 50 or at centre half forward. So turnovers cost both sides, and it was a very scrappy, probably first 15 minutes. Then Blacks slammed on 5 goals in probably the last 10 minutes. The first one, a dubious mark that I will say was not a mark. It wasn't dubious at all. It was the wrong decision. But that kick-started the Blacks. But then in the second quarter, St Bernard's really turned it on. It was 6 goals to 2, and then that levelled the scores at half-time, and then after half-time, 15 goals to 2.
It's hard to sustain that style of play.
It is.
So what happens? You've 21 goals to 4 after quarter time. It's a massive turnaround.
So Bernard's weren't terrible in the first quarter. They just couldn't make most of their opportunities. But after half-time, they were back to their blistering best.
Ominous signs for St Bernard's going forward this year.
But that first quarter, if you have a look at that, sides will have a look at that. That's how you shut St Bernard's down. You shut down their rebound off half-back and get plenty of numbers around the ball and just turn into a scrap, and you take out their outside game.
Which was all very well until the second quarter, when seemingly the same tactics, which I'm sure they didn't abandon, all of a sudden weren't working. So
Bentic got involved. He set up a goal to Singleton when he just bullocked through a 450 stoppage. He started to win the footy. I think he was best on ground for the day.
So again, it's a hard way to play footy, to turn it into a scrap.
Yep.
But the other thing too is that they've got firepower up forward. They've got marking players, and yet the funny thing is, 3 weeks ago here we were saying, tell us about St Bernard's. They haven't really gone and blown away someone, and 21 goals to 4 after quarter time.
Absolutely. Not only have they got marking players, but they've got a wide spread, 13 different goal kickers as well for St Bernard's. Very impressive stuff. Old Scotch and Uni Blues, Marty. This was the battle between the teams that were both on 5-game losing streaks, and it was Blues that won at Old Scotch.
Well, I suppose when you think about it, all amateur sides would look at it and say there's 8 wins when you play at home. You might lose one, but you pencil in that you really want to actually make sure that you get 8 wins, because that way you preserve your status, and that way it's your ground. You know your ground. So 6 wins, 6 losses on the trot. That's not a great sign. And as we noted here, Bull didn't have one of his better days. Certainly was named in the best, but are they leaving too much to too few too often? They did turn the ball over on the day. I mean, Ross Young comes back, has a terrific game, easily best on ground, 5 goals from a midfielder. That's a great outcome. But then one of the problems we actually have is that when we look at Scotch, their leading goal kicker is on 19 goals. The second leading goal kicker for their team is on 10. So we spoke a few weeks ago about missing the current coach Passador up forward. So there's a 40, 50 goal, maybe even 70 when you think about what he gives off and how he acts as a decoy. To have 29 goals amongst your top 2 goal kickers for a side that their hopes were quite high at the start of the year is not good enough, really, is it?
Yeah, do you think that's their forward structure that's leading them down, or turnovers further afield? Is it the way they're playing that's not allowing them to score, or is it the fact that personnel isn't there?
No, look, I think they kicked 18 against D-Lara in round 2, and I mean I know D-Lara 1-8, but D-Lara also kicked 18 in that game, or 17. So they've got the personnel.
Yeah.
They haven't lost too many players from previous years. I mean, if you think about it, there's enough good players there. Jamison, McKinley, Bull, that know and understand amateur football. Bull's been in the best 6 times. Sansom 5, McKinley 5, Jamison in the best 6 times, Strauss in the best 4 times. But again, it's those 5. Dagian with 19 goals. It's just not a great return.
Well, I saw them a couple of weeks ago, Marty, and I would agree with your point about relying on too few. It seemed as they tried to work the ball out of defence under pressure that they were looking particularly for those guys to do the job to get them out.
And I remember you making
sometimes the ball went to the wrong spot to go to the right guy.
Player, yeah.
And that's not, and look, they've got some good players out there that are probably, not getting enough touches, and they're going to need to pick that up, because Saturday's game, certainly against Blues, that was the game where the loser starts to look down and the winner starts to look up and says, can we make the four?
It's not necessarily a line in the sand game, but it is one where after 5 you do begin to, those doubts.
You'd have to be going into that game thinking you're a chance to win, because the other team's on a 5-game
losing streak
as well.
And we're at home.
Yeah, and we're at home.
Yep.
So to start poorly, and I know they came back, as they always do come back at Camberwell then. They came back, got to within 8 points, but then a couple of errors late in the game as well, and just decision making from their good players as well.
But then, as we were saying, as Fitzy just said, if you're looking to give the ball to the good player, but they're in the wrong spot, or you're putting the ball into the wrong spot to get it to the good player. That's where those turnovers can come. That's where the poor decision making comes, and that's where you do get caught on the rebound, or that's where you turn the ball over in terrible spots, which therefore allows the opposition to come through.
And contrast with that, with what we're seeing from Old Trinity right now,
Yeah.
who, if you're on the field, you're part of the team.
That's it.
Well,
And they go to places where no man has ever gone before, and you think, well, they're not going to kick it out there, and they do.
Mate, I
Now,
thought
you
I was-
might argue it's the wrong
I thought I
spot,
was going to places.
but you know, that's the absolute opposite.
Old Trinity, they're going beautifully. Beaumaris started the game with 1 goal late in the opening quarter. They led at the first quarter, but 1 goal late. It looks costly from afar when you're reading that scoreline. Beaumaris had to start well. They did, albeit they couldn't convert their chances when they went inside, attacking 50 there at the Daily Oval. Hard place to win, and as we know, Old Trinity were always going to come back and make a run on. They did. You mentioned the players standing up. Well, Old Trinity, Seb Nicolosi bobs up and kicks 5. Luther Jurek is named the best on the ground in terms of their play. So their spread is big in terms of who's featuring the best each week as well.
Yeah, and that's it. And poor old Bowie, I mean, I can imagine you're having shots. They're obviously playing pretty well. And at quarter time thinking 1 goal late, and there would have been every one of their players thinking, boy, we wasted that. And because you knew Trinity were going to come back. And as they did.
It's energy sapping. When you have the amount of opportunities, do all that hard work, and you kick 1 goal late,
Yeah.
and then the other side
Well,
goes
it's
down and
deflating.
kicks. Yeah, that's very deflating.
It's deflating. And then maybe what we've done is that maybe the state selectors, with all due respect, have underestimated, because there's only 2 players selected in the initial squad.
Possibly,
From Trinity.
Maybe they're a combination of their parts, not necessarily having the stars in their side.
And surely as a coach, that's what you would want, because here we are talking about Old Scotch just a moment ago with some terrific players, but not enough overall contribution from everybody. And yet Trinity, you know, in many ways here we were saying, can they go on? Is Brendan Yetzi a huge loss? And yet what we see is that they carry on their merry way.
This meme came out during the week about St Kevin's, just how do you beat them? I quite enjoyed this, but as a couple of the comments said, they've still got to win in September, and they haven't done that for 10 years. They won by 149 points on the weekend. Are they guaranteed promotion? Is anyone prepared to put their neck on the line and say they're guaranteed promotion at this point?
With the fact that I think their resis, their thirds, their 19s are all winning, and winning well, I'll put my neck out on the line and say if they get hit by the injury stick and they've got players that come up, so I will guarantee they will be promoted at the end of the year.
Well, I don't think you can guarantee anything about September, any particular year, but I've got to say that the third team, whoever that ends up being, is going to have to do a lot of work to see St Kevin's lose 2 finals, because they will win the double chance. And so they're 1 win away from Premier section.
I think they're absolute morals. In Division 1, we mentioned Kew and Ormond at the top of the show. It's fantastic to see, and it's unusual to see 2 clubs at 9-0 at the halfway point. The intricacies of the fixture, meaning they haven't played each other yet. They do so in round 10. It should be a fantastic match between Kew and Ormond at the EE Gun.
Both coming off terrific wins on the weekend, so it's been set up. In fact, you've just stolen my thunder for later on, Andrew, but that's okay. And what it does is it actually, but you know, I mean, it just means that terrible colours on jumpers will be on display in D1. Both of them have brown as their base. I don't know how you can ever actually marry brown and blue.
Chocolate.
Is it milk or dark?
It's one of the most famous jumpers in amateur football, and we shouldn't be disparaging.
No, I
about it,
shouldn't
Marty.
be. No, I shouldn't.
Speaking of Ormond, they had a fantastic celebration on Saturday night, celebrating their era of 1985 to 1990. If you haven't seen it, check out their Ormond Years, the documentary on the VAFA website. In Division 2, we mentioned at the top of the show, Ivanhoe rolling St John's, fantastic result there. For Ivanhoe, but not so good for St John's.
No, and Ivanhoe were very, very good. Paul Harris has got them playing a very good brand of football where they roll numbers back, and then when they turn the footy over, they switch it laterally, move out the other side, and they just caught us off guard. And our forward line, apart from Tim Edwards, didn't function at all. But we'll learn from our mistakes and we'll move on, hopefully.
They might feature in just a second. It's time now for Good Day, Bad Day.
Because you had a bad day.
Marty, who had a good day?
Well, the aforementioned Ormond and Kew, I think it's terrific. And what it does this week is it actually sets up the district clash of the two unbeaten sides, two very proud historical servants within the amateurs. This is going to be, I mean, this will be terrific. This will see where we're really at with both of these sides. And I think it's great to see the two district clubs going well.
Match of the day, I reckon, in the VAFA this one.
Yep, absolutely.
And who had a bad day?
Well, Ferry. They had gone 23 games unbeaten at home, lost a couple of weeks ago, and then on Saturday beaten by Monash Blues by 101 points. Not a great day for them, and hopefully they can rebound.
Just the 4 goals as well, only 2 goal kickers between the two Bannister boys. Fitzy, good day and bad day for you?
Well, good day. I saw on Saturday morning, I thought Fitzroy versus Hampton Rovers at the Boss. Fitzroy had been coming, they'd lost a narrow one to OMs and then came hard the next 2 weeks. I said they were coming on the radio on 96.5 Inner FM. And what do? They win by 58 points. A massive performance from Fitzroy down there at the Boss.
And a bad day, Fitzy?
Well, bad day. I mean, we like players to, once they've set a standard, to keep that standard. And clearly, around the league, that, you know, most of the times that happens, but not to Westbourne, Grammarian, full forward, Dale Collins.
Oh, you're kidding, he's kicked 11.
Lamentable
He
performance.
kicked 15 for a new club record, Andrew.
Yes.
He kicked 17 for a new club record. On Saturday, pathetic. 11 goals. Pathetic. Bad day.
He's got a lift. He really has to lift.
What's he done for the club, I wonder?
We're not talking about the former St Bede's Mentone Tigers secretary, Dale Collins. We're talking about the full
The
forward.
gun full forward of the VAFA at the moment, Dale Collins.
Is he a bear in the square, or is he a big fella? Is he a big bear?
Not sure, we might have to try and get some imagery.
I haven't made my way down to Hoppers Crossing
Are
on
you going
Tarnita.
We're going to see the big bear in the square.
Brendan, who had a good day and a bad day?
Good day for me was Mount Lilydale, knocking off Point Cook and handing them their first defeat of the year, and then themselves keeping in touch with the top 4. Bad day for me. St John's Old Collegians, injuries, reports, and their first loss of the year. It doesn't get much worse than that.
It was a bad day indeed. Good day for me was Glen Ira. 3 wins in a row. Fantastic result for a club that's been through the ringer in the last couple of years. Superb to see them winning a big win for them over being top 4 opposition twice in the last 2 weeks as well. So they're going beautifully at the moment, Glen Ira. And a bad day, sorry, that was a good day. Bad day, Old Scotch. I don't think it can get any worse for them at this stage, other than the fact that if they keep losing, they're going to be swapping places with either Beaumaris or De La Salle and finding themselves in relegation territory.
Oh, big call.
Well, they didn't
Big
have
call.
a good day at the school either, did they? At Scotches.
I haven't been in Premier B since 1980, and I suspect that they won't be going back there
They've
next
got a bit
year.
of work to
Look,
do.
it's highly likely, because we've seen Scotch escape so many times before, not so many, but a few times before, that I reckon they're struggling, the Cardinals.
I hope you haven't said that just to consign them now to go out in the track and work hard. I need them to be no good for the next 12 weeks.
It's time now to take a look at what everyone watches the VAFA Tragics for. It's Fitzy firing on 5.
This week, as every week, I look at different aspects of amateur football. Let's go to the videotape. This week, as Andrew Leonard departs the VAFA, it's time to look over his legacy. Number 5, VAFA TV. Lenny has taken the use of video to new levels, with the game highlights, reporting from club rooms on Thursday nights, managing this panel of know-it-alls, and even doing radio on top, and tweeting about it. Number 4, Twitter. Andrew has actually developed a system that auto-tweets while he is asleep, ensuring followers get the scoop 24 hours a day. Number 3, it's bright, it's blue. Yes, it's Andrew Leonard Arena at Cliff Bastow House, the fabulous table tennis table that allows him late into the night to exercise his right hand while tweeting with his left. Number 2, the nickname Andrew Two Lunches Leonard, derived from his 11:30am and 1:30pm sessions at the feed bag, fueling him for yet more tweeting. And number 1, the hair loss. Like many of us, follically challenged. Doctors have pointed the finger at hard work beyond the call of duty.
Can you spot the difference in the Lenny today and the Lenny who arrived at Cliff Bastow House just 3 short years ago? Good luck, Andrew. You'll be missed.
And if you don't agree with me, just remember, I just call it as if I see it.
Fitzy firing on 5 there. That's a beautiful segue to go into Marty Kelleher's Wine of the Week.
Thank you, Andrew, and welcome to the Wine of the Week. This week we'll have a look at the Tabilk ESP. So this is a 2009 Cabernet Sauvignon, which retails around about $80. One of the premium wines grown off the vines that were first planted in 1933. We think this is one of the great wines of the estate, one that you can put away for 10, 15, 20 years. You know what, James Halliday writes up about these wines every year, and he says that every Australian should actually do themselves a favour, not just to get over to Bilk to have a look at the winery, but to actually look at part of Australia's winemaking and wine growing history. Old-fashioned winemaking, lovely cool climate style, this is a great wine. And given that I'm feeling a little bit like Louis the Fly, I'm feeling quite lean, mean, and wearing this jacket mighty unclean, I might need to have a glass of this later on. Now, the wine of the week.
Yes.
It may be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to have a crack at the VFL, because I think what actually happens is we get players that they have aspirations of wanting to play at a higher level, and certainly within all amateur clubs we'd be more than happy to promote and actually encourage the players to do that. But when after 2 to 3 years they then come back and they sit and they just don't get encouraged, or they just fill up numbers, or they become a glorified witch's hat at a VFL club and flop around in the VFL reserves, what that does is then it has an impact on the growth and the sustainability of the VAFA. In addition, another one that I actually have is that what it does is it actually takes, is that then when they decide they want to take listed players, they just take them out of clubs at different times, just for whatever their own needs, or they may not release them. Think about the strength of the VAFA if we were able to have players like Ross Young every week, players like Nick Wynn every week. If we go to Port Melbourne, there's a couple of old Severian boys floating around down there. I know there's a couple of DLR boys down at Port Melbourne. Maybe terrific players within our competition would make it stronger, would actually make it a really great spectacle to come and see.
Certainly, I think that's a great point. Certainly from the development league point of view, I think the William Buck Premier is the equal, if not much better than the development league in the VFL. So we'd love to see those players playing with us. Marty, the jacket suits you. I think we should see you in it again in the coming weeks.
So you going swimming down at Harold Hole Pool.
Get that look off your face.
He's very smug, isn't he? Grinning like a Cheshire cat.
It's been great to be back with you all, sitting around the desk chatting about VAFA football. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see you all again next week.
VAFA TV at vafatv.com.